IT manager, and he's going to actually set it up, the app, onto your phone. So your phone, and you'll be given credentials to actually log in, and you'll be able to access the results from the UTH laboratories. And the way the system has been made is that if you are from another facility which registers samples here at UTH, for example, let's say Kanyama first level, is it District General Hospital now? You would only be able to access the results for Kanyama because that is the credential that you have been given. So anybody, anywhere within Zambia, as long as you send samples to UTH and your facility is on our system, you are able to get your actual results. And this system is also going to be rolled out to CDL. We're still waiting to see if our cooperating partners are going to help us with that so that we can make all this easier for everybody else. For external quality assurance for TB, we have two programs that we use. We use an in-country intra-lab comparison program where there's slide retesting. And the program actually collects samples from facilities and rechecks them at UTH and CDL. And that's how results are given back. And basically, they're just rechecking. Whatever slide, if you said it was negative, we're going to recheck it from our peripheral laboratories. And if you get it right, if they find that the same results as you, then you have clearly passed. Then the second thing that we have for external quality assurance is that we're registered with the Uganda TB laboratory, the TB reference laboratory in Uganda, and they're the ones who give us the external quality assurance. And external quality assurance basically compares two different laboratories, two different setups, or a group of different laboratories in order to assure that there's quality in the results that have been produced. Okay, so I thought it would be good to share what the performance for the TB lab for 2020, and they got 100% in all the different aspects. You can see on the far left column that for smear, for gene expert, for culture, for LPA first line, all of those, we have external assurance programs for those, and that is how they fared as a TB laboratory. Unfortunately, today I don't have the data for CDL, but I believe they also did well in order for them to have their accreditation status. Yes.
So now we'll allow Mutinta to catch her breath. We have the third poll question. It's a mind twister. Personally, I find this very annoying, but I made this one. So I wish you luck. Which of these turnaround times are correct? The line probe assay, first line, of course, is it 7 days? The expert reef, 24 hours. Culture, 66 days. This is culture with drug sensitivity testing. Microscopy, that's your AFB, 3 days. Or is it the line probe assay, first line, 2 weeks? Expert reef, 24 hours. Your sputum culture with DST, 6 weeks. Microscopy, 3 days. Or is it LPA, 7 days. The expert reef, 48 hours. Culture, 66 days. Microscopy, 36 hours. Or is it line probe assay, 2 weeks. Expert reef, 48 hours. Culture, 66 days. And microscopy, 36 hours. As I said, I wish you luck. Extremely important when you are seeing patients, isn't it, to know the turnaround times? Let us vote. Exciting. I see people are voting. Yay! This is good. Only 11 of us have voted. I will allow a few more seconds for this one because I know it's a particularly annoying one. I apologize once again. Okay, for some reason, I can't see the bottom one. The votes, okay. So which of these turnaround times are correct? This is not only information that the lab should know, even us as clinicians, so that if I know you are before me and you ordered the culture 6 months ago, that lab result should be on the file. If you ordered a line probe assay, that lab result should be on the file. And I should be able to hold the lab accountable. But if I also don't know, I'll go asking for a culture after 2 weeks. They will laugh at me. So let us give it a go. I like this. We are at 181 connections. Only 43% are brave enough to vote on this one. Let us
It's a secret
vote.
ballot, isn't it?
It's a very secret ballot. I'm glad I'm not voting. And I'm surprised I didn't see, you know, on your Zoom, there are little reactions if you go to the small ribbon where you have your mute video, where you can react. I'm surprised we didn't give the TB lab a clap for all those 100%. Because that is proper health system strengthening. It shows the strength of our health system. Let us give it a go. What do we think are the appropriate turnaround times? What do you expect when you do a culture? Or when you ask for an expert? Should you get it in the next 2 hours or in the next 2 days? What time should it be ready at the lab? If you do a sputum microscopy, do you think it takes them 3 days to look under the microscope? Or do you think it takes them a day and a half? So this is an exciting one. This is the longest poll we've ever had. But let's share the results. Okay. So, Mutinta, as you can see, most people feel that the LPA takes 2 weeks.
Okay.
Gene expert takes 24 hours, that's 1 day. A culture takes 6 weeks. This culture is with a DST. And microscopy should take 3 days. That's 44%. There is also another school of thought that thinks a line probe assay should take 7 days, meaning if I request that on someone, especially who I think has resistance, within 7 days, I should get some drug sensitivity. They think expert reef should be taking 24 hours. A culture should take 66 days. This is with DST. And microscopy should take 3 days. Then we have a few others who voted otherwise. I'll be very curious on this one. So thank you all for voting.
Yes, thank you so much. And as a laboratory, this is good feedback. We shall use it when we're doing revision. So these are the turnaround times that have been set by 2 referral laboratories. The UTH TB laboratory microscopy is 36 hours. Culture in DST is 66 days. Detection of TB and RIF resistance is 48 hours. And the line probe assay is 7 days. And for CDL, that's the one on the right, microscopy is 48 hours. Culture DST up to 66 days. And this is their own phrasing in their handbook. They just want to make sure that you know that it's up to. So you can actually look, even before that, you can try your luck to see whether or not it's ready. Yes. So those, the 48 hours and 7 days for the line probe assay. Thank you. So TB lab here at UTH, we also had some data concerning the turnaround time. UTH laboratory actually requires that 80% of the time, the test should be reported within a defined time. So those times that they defined for these different assays, this is how they performed last year in 2020. They can even compare between 2019 and 2020. This is how the TB laboratory did. And as you can see, they really surpassed our target. I think we're just now going to make it purely 100% for TB lab. I mean, they're an accredited lab. I'm sure they can do it. So I just wanted to share this with you. This is information that we actually share in our lab yearly management review meetings. That's why I'm able to actually give them to you like this. Next, we move on to HIV, and this is the pre-examination phase that has as designed by the UTH laboratories for HIV. I took them because I took a UTH because that's the reference laboratory, the National Reference Laboratory. So in our laboratory handbook, we describe what is required. We have developed those manuals. for the particular test that we're dealing with, and the type of sample that is required. We also talk about the volumes and which containers you're supposed to use, as well as how the sample should be transported. As you can see, the samples for the HIV should be at the lab when collected at room temperature within 2 hours of collection. So these are things that are there in the laboratory handbook to guide you on exactly what needs to be done. For HIV viral load tests, we require whole blood. We need 2 purple top containers, and the samples should be transported at room temperature within 24 hours of collection. And we've also got a note there which says the viral load and CD4, because this is exactly how it is in our book. So if I say something that's out of context for what we're discussing, it's because this is how we have it. So the specimens must be collected in separate containers. Usually when we're doing a viral load, we are also looking at a CD4, and both belong in an EDTA container. So we'll just take it, okay, 1 container, let it go. No, we require 2, they should be separate. So ideally it should be that you would collect 3, because for viral load alone, they would need 2 purple tops. But just in case, people don't want to take too much of their blood out, at least if we have 2, 1 for viral load, 1 for CD4, we can still work with that, okay?
So here is our 4th poll question. This is the only one that's coming after the answer. I hope we'll get 100%. For viral load collection and transportation within 24 hours, which of the following is true? Collect 2 purple tops, transport at -20 degrees Celsius. B, collect 2 red tops, transport at -20 degrees Celsius, excuse the typo. C, collect 1 red top, transport at room temperature. D, collect 2 purple tops, transport them at room temperature. I like this one. I like this one because we don't want our samples to be rejected, isn't it? What should we do when we collect a viral load to be transported within 24 hours? Mutinta has assured me that they expect all viral loads to reach the lab at within 24 hours, because viral networks are actually quite well developed in the country. We don't expect you to bring us leftover samples from the previous night. No, it should be within 24 hours and preferably collected before 12 hours. We've been advised in that footnote, okay? So if you're going to collect a viral load, how are you going to do it in our facilities? I hope this will reflect what we do. Do we collect 2 purple tops and put them in a cooler at -20? Do we collect 2 red tops, transport at -20 degrees Celsius? Collect 1 red top, transport at room temperature? Collect 2 purple tops, transport at room temperature? We'll give it 5 more seconds. This is particularly important. Today I was doing my round. I requested an EGA. It was done in a purple top. That sample got rejected and the patient refused to have blood collected from him. So we need to take this very seriously. And those bottles, they actually cost quite some money. Yeah. So sometimes we do run out. So you need to make sure you do the correct thing. If you don't know, you can ask the people in the facility. This is excellent voting. We need a few more votes. What do you think? Even if you may not be a phlebotomist or working in the clinical area. Actually, not what do you think? What did she say? She taught this. So it should be easy. Okay, so thank you all for voting. We've reached the hundreds. This is not bad. This is a very good network. I'm excited. So this is our voting pattern. Most people, that is 70% of us, felt that you should collect 2 purple tops and transport them at room temperature within 24 hours. We have a few of us that think that we should collect 2 purple tops and transport them at -20, while a few felt that we should actually be using the red top. We'll find out soon enough. Thank you all for voting.
Okay, actually, because we had already mentioned it earlier, so soon enough we'll find out and I'll give an explanation on that one. So during the examination phase, in the laboratory analysis phase, we've also developed SOPs, and I put an example of the heading of our SOPs. This one is for the operation of the Hologic Panther for the quantification of HIV RNA. And what I really want to take you to get out of this is that the reason we make these SOP, as described in the purpose, is to describe the procedure in full detail. So this document has got full details of what we do in the laboratory, starting from receiving of the samples, pre-processing, processing of samples, quality control, measures to be followed, validation of the final results, and entering and transmission of the results in the laboratory information system, and reviewing of results. For HIV, we actually have several of these SOPs. I couldn't share all of them, but there are quite a number of them. And for those laboratorians who are on the call, you can actually contact us to share this information with you so that you can actually replicate some of the things that we're doing here at UTH, because our EID lab, our ACOE lab, and our PCOE lab, all who are doing HIV, are all accredited laboratories as well. So these are some of the things that we have put in place to gain this accreditation status. So we'd really like to share, and these are the things that we have developed. Okay, so the post-examination phase, again, we do generate reports. We have a standard reporting form, and we send the results to facilities, both as hard copies and electronic copies. Most of the other laboratories and facilities within the district and the province, and I think around the nation, if I'm not correct, Panji, they do have the DISA link everywhere, isn't it? Yeah. So DISA link is one way that we make sure that for our HIV program, results are communicated electronically in the shortest possible time.
Our fifth poll questions. I know it's a lot of poll questions, but they are good ones. So the recommended or expected average turnaround time for HIV viral load in Zambia is it 6 weeks? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 weeks? Or is it 8 weeks? This one, lab team, if people say something else, it would be a reflection, isn't it?
Yep.
Of our of our lab performance. What is the average turnaround time that is recommended? Okay, I know we may not be within range, but what is the recommended? What should you expect even as a facility? I know we do a lot of situation rooms. When you have a patient in front of you, how many weeks should you tell them it will take for the lab to give us? The lab, which we've said, we've been told is very strong, that they expect all samples in Zambia to reach the lab within 24 hours. That is epic. The recommended expected average turnaround time for HIV viral load in Zambia is A, 6 weeks, B, 2 weeks, C, 3 weeks, D, 8 weeks. We'll give it 30 more seconds. Litambia Rural Health Center, Western Province, I hope you voted. I don't see you pressing there. I can see, press something. Okay, yeah, sure. I can see that you have voted now. Oh, interesting. So we have just a few more seconds to allow people to vote. What do you expect in terms of turnaround time? What is the recommended? I know some of us, our turnaround times may be higher than usual. They may be longer than what is recommended. Okay, so some people are even saying 8 weeks, lab team. You people. So I'm going to share the results. And I hope this is pertaining on the ground. So some people felt it was 6 weeks, but 93% of us felt that it's actually within 2 weeks, that I should have my viral load if it was collected. Some people felt it was 3 weeks, others felt that it was 8 weeks. Will be told very soon.
Okay. So those are the turnaround times that have been defined. For the rapid HIV, routine is 24 hours. while the urgent is within 2 hours. You're supposed to get your result. For EID, HIV, drug resistance, as well as viral load, those we do not have what we call urgent results. Not saying that we cannot give it a chance. If a clinician needs it, they need to come forward and actually tell us the reason why they would want us not to go by our defined turnaround times. But we felt that the 5 days for EID and 6 weeks for drug resistance and 14 days for HIV viral load should be okay. If not, please, you can always communicate. We do love customer feedback so that we can adjust these turnaround times. Okay, so this is the review for the HIV viral load turnaround time. Unfortunately for us as a lab, we have not managed to meet the 2 weeks turnaround time, both in 2019 and 2020. And as I explained to you, this is information that we have looked at our management review meeting for 2020, and we've put in corrective action. And we hope when we review for 2021, things will be much better than the 50% and the 48% that we got for 2020 and 2019. So this is what we wanted to show you. This is how we're doing, but we definitely are trying to pull up our socks here. So the challenges that we've had in the turnaround time for HIV viral load is basically the instrument breakdowns that we've had in the last year, or that was in 2020. Then we had a lot of reagent stockouts. If you remember when the pandemic hit, we're unable to get some of our stocks in. And also the sheer volumes that we had last year. I think there was a time when we had a backlog of something like 700,000 nationwide. Yes, we had quite a high number, which we had to clear within a period of 6 weeks. And that was a target that was given to us. So last year we did have quite a number. Yes. So for external quality assurance, as I explained, this is required for us to assess ourselves against our peers. And in country, we do have the ZANGAP HIV PT program. Then we also have one of our labs, the PCOE lab, has been enrolled with Randox as an external quality assurance. This one is commercially prepared. It's not an in-country as we prepare within the country. Okay, and the ZANGAP, the in-house program, the in-country program, this one conducts proficiency testing in HIV rapid testing for HIV testing sites countrywide. They've had 14 cycles since the program started. And there are up to 2,100 testing sites which are participating in this program. And they also conduct HIV testing certification for both sites as well as testers. And they actually have developed a stepwise process checklist, which they use when they are taking the certification activities. So for HIV and EID, these ones have been enrolled in the National Health Laboratory Services CDC programs, which our partners have supported us with. And this is the performance for the various laboratories in 2020. And you can actually see that we've had quite a high percentage. I mean, all of them have all passed 100%. So there's really no need for us to doubt the results that are coming out from these laboratories as far as HIV viral load and EID is concerned, because as you can see, you can see that 98%, that EID lab for drug resistance, the pass mark for saying they've passed is actually between 95 and 100%, and they got 98%. And if they're targeting to go to 100, they've put in their corrective measures, because these things are reviewed and we see where we've gone wrong, and I'm sure they know where their 2% is. So the key points from my presentation this afternoon is that assuring quality is a holistic process. It's not dependent on one cadre. Please remember that the pre-examination phase, the community volunteers, the nurses, doctors, lab staff, we're all involved in this. So we all need to at least get the laboratory handbooks, read them. We're even allowed to make work instruction for them to stick on our walls if that is what we want. Photocopy turnaround times, photocopy the requirements, the sampling requirements, the transport, and then put them for our use. Then the examination phase is obviously for the laboratory. Then the post-examination phase, the lab, the data collectors, the nurses. All of us required in that post-examination phase. And one thing that Doc said, which would include the medical officers and the clinical officers, is that you're looking at a file of your patient, you do not see the result. That's part of the post-examination phase. So you too also are in it, in that you need to know that this is supposed to be in my file, the result is not here, what is happening. Then the Ministry of Health and the laboratory services have developed documents which must be followed at all times. Let's follow them. Things will be easy once we follow them. And even when we do revise some of these documents, we do put a small note where it's a revision, and it's usually just one line, maybe in a document. So most of these documents are living documents that last quite a long time. There's one more left, the customer feedback. Okay, so as we saw on the polling, customer feedback is very important, especially where receiving of results is concerned. I've seen what people want for HIV viral load, the turnaround time they require. We'll go back with Mpanji, look at our processes, see exactly what it is, where we can improve so that people can be happier with the service that we give. Thank you, Doc. Those are the references that I used to come up with the presentation, and my contact numbers are there.
Okay, so thank you very much. Before we go to the pause, we'll allow a few more questions. I've got plenty, but I don't want to take over. I know Moses Mlenga, your hand was up. Please go ahead. Moses Mlenga. Is there another hand? I see Dr. Charles Lushinga has joined us. Do you have any comments, Charles?
Hello, Dr. Folosh. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, but no comment at the moment. Thank you for the presentation, Tinta.
You're welcome.
I know that there was a question from Moses Mulenga. The hand was up. Am I correct?
You have anything in the chat box?
Yes, I believe in the chat we have a lot. But I noticed that you mentioned Hologic Panther. The Hologic Panther, is that the machine that's all over the country, or you have different machines?
We have different machines.
Okay.
Yeah, we have different machines. It's not the only one. This one I just took from the reference laboratories here.
Oh, okay. So that's one of the best machines, though. So it's good to know that Zambia has some of the best machines.
Yeah.
I pick out that because when I'm working in the lab team, I've got some favorite words. My favorite word is now one tie. One tie. Hologic Panther. They have all these fancy words. So Peter, please go ahead with the questions before I go to the chat. Peter. Peter, your hand is up.
Hello, Dr. Folosh.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Thank you so much. I was following tentatively for this presentation. I've got one concern. I think there was just a discussion we had from the facility on the viral load. So when counting, okay, in a case of high viral load client who is supposed to start EAC sessions, when do we start counting like the mass, those to repeat the viral. The problem was collected, or the time the client, the time we received, or the time we started EAC session. That's when we count the 3 months. Thank you. Is my question clear?
Definitely not. You were breaking. Are you able to say that again, or should I attempt?
All right, let me repeat. My question is on viral load. I need the clarification because we had the discussion from the facility. When the client viral load result is unsuppressed, which means this client is due for EAC and the repeat viral load. Now, when counting the duration, do we start from the time the sample was corrected, or the time we received the results, or the time we started the EAC session? That's when we start counting the months so that we.
Okay, I see what you mean. I think that is for the clinical team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone on the panel can answer that. But essentially, if you want to start, Bosco, I see Dr. Bosco, you're there. Do you want to pick up that question? Then ask your question.
I'm picking that question.
Excellent, well done, thank you.
Yes, we don't really count just the month at month 1 because we have the result. When we receive the high viral result, the first day we have the result, if we have the patient, we provide enough adherence counseling session. Now, if you go in our guideline on page 65, we have a very good table where people, they don't read that table, very good table there, which guide you what you should be doing when you're doing the enough adherence counseling session. You might do, on the first session, one of the key elements in that page 65 of our guideline is to look for any possible barrier to the adherence. We call it, you explore the barrier, and you found a strategy. Now, if the barrier to your patient, for instance, I'll give you one example. Your patient is missing to take his drug. So in the past 1 month, I missed for 10 days to take my drug. When he comes in the second month, which is month 2, you ask the same question. This time, how many times did you miss? He tell you, I missed 11 days. And this is month 2, month 1. Month 2 is still missing all the 3 months. For me, I have not yet found the problem. Until the month the patient say, okay, from now, this month I did not miss any of my drugs, and that you count that, that's your month 1. Remember, the keyword is explore the barrier and found a strategy with the patient how to overcome the barriers. When the barrier have been identified and the patient have agreed that now I've stopped, first month, he took the drug correctly, second month, he took the drug correctly, third month, then you can count at 3 months. So the nurse can take even 10 months if the patient does not understand. You cannot go ahead and retest the viral load or do the repeat viral load without following the strategy and clearing that one. I think that's what I can answer for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bosco. Essentially, what he means that if, for example, you have a viral load done in February, you come and see the patient in March, say end of March, you assume this whole time they are unsuppressed, it's unactioned. So your day 1 will be the day you start the enhanced adherence counseling. That is a proxy. But in reality, your first day of proper adherence counseling, where it has worked, is when the patient takes their drugs accurately. So you need to almost put that in the context, even as you are counting. You can't say, I'll count 3 months from my last viral load. When the person comes back and tells you, actually, even if you canceled me, I continued throwing the drug. So you know they are still unsuppressed. I hope that is helpful. So it's about the action of the patient. That's what determines your month 1. Bonnie Makando, please go ahead with your question. Dr. Bosco, your hand is still up. Keep it up if you have another question, or you can bring it down. Bonnie? Bonnie Makando.
Yes, good afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, just to ride on the question that was being discussed here, I think the most important thing is he was asking about when do you have the other viral load. The guidelines, they say after 3 months. That is in respect, if this client follows every month the appointments that you give them and it is successive adherence counseling, that's when the viral load can be collected. We are talking about the sessions, the 3 successive sessions for EAC. That's when on the 3rd month, that's when you can collect viral load. Now coming to the question about the labs, I still feel for quality results, really it starts from the sample up to where it is tested and how you receive the feedback of the results. But I'm quite concerned because when you talk about quality results, you're talking about the things that you use, the SOP that you have to follow and the like. And in the guides, when we come to the testing of HIV in that regard, of late we've been running out of stock of the way things should move. For example, when you test for HIV, you start with the determine, then you go to the confirmatory test. Now, of late, we've been lacking the determine. My concern there is, are we not compromising on the quality? Because we would want the quality results and also quality services that we are giving to our clients. And recently, of late, as a country, I think we had run out of determine and we are told that we use first the SD bioline, then we use other confirmatory. Are we not really, again, compromising on the quality of the results that we are receiving and the feedback that we are giving to our clients? Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. If you notice, they clapped a bit. We raised the clap for your first point because you explained it very well. And I know somebody has typed in terms of smart care, they'll regard the day that you collected the sample. This is a bit nuanced. I think his question, you may have to maybe sit with the facility to understand what we are saying, but I like the way you at least tried to shed more light on that. I'll allow the lab team to answer your second question.
Yes, you're very correct on that. We are compromising because of our commodities that we have run short of. And this has basically been in the last few months. And as laboratory services, we looked at the next best thing that we could do. And we used that, we validated that change in procedure because we really didn't have anything else that we could offer. It was either we just stop offering the service or we continue, but with a validated process. So we did go look through our past data that we have, because we do have the data of positive, determined, and then we come to our confirmatory. And we decided, look, if we can't give determined, let's just go ahead and follow this. But it's not something that it was a stopgap measure because of the time and the period that we're in. But as soon as things normalize, we should be able to go back to our usual commodities for HIV because they were really actually regular. We do understand your concern and we take it as feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mwinga, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Foloshi, and good presentation, Mutinta. I've followed it very well and it's very informative. Yeah, I just want to go back to the question asked by Singogo from Police Clinic in the chat. I don't know if you've looked at that, where they actually compared the 2 tests with the different confounders. They compared the expert and LAM, and they are saying they had positives from LAM, and the expert was giving negative results. So maybe your comment on that, knowing too well that urine LAM is not a rule-out test, but a rule-in test. Maybe if you could just comment on that. And of course, we know that you've elaborated clearly on what would actually maybe give you a false negative for expert, looking at the quality of the sputum and how it's transported and all the other things. Over, thanks.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Dr. Mwinga, for the questions. Okay, I didn't really see that comment. You can read it out to me, but
so thank you so much, Dr. Mwinga, for bringing up that. I'm so sold on UNLAM, a 100% fan of the UNLAM. That test, I can't do my round without a UNLAM. So anyway, Peter Singongo is actually a facility. I always used to say, Peter Singongo asked. I always thought it was a person. It's a facility. We have continued seeing positive results in LAM while the expert is giving us a negative result. So far, we have 3 cards, and it's wealthy. It's healthy to note. It's worthy to note that these are clients who have not been on ART for some time now. So they are seeing almost like a better yield from the UNLAM and these discorders. Do you want to comment on the sensitivity, specificity? Thank you very much, Dr. Mwinga.
All right. My comment for that one is it's good that Peter Singongo facility has actually observed this and they've seen it. And yes, we did have that specificity and sensitivity of the gene expert is not as good as the LAM. So here, what we need to do really is to write out a protocol where we're going to investigate and do a proper evaluation of this, so that we're able to give back information that is based on data that we can evaluate and that can be reproduced. So we've taken note of that, and we are going to come back to the facility so that they actually give us what they did, and maybe we can come up with a proper protocol. I shall refer it to CDL and to the TB laboratory so that they can actually do a study where we can actually come back and give information to the clients.
And of course, it's worth noting, these patients are not on ART, so likely they had very low CD4 counts, and the sensitivity for the LAM peaks once your CD4 count is dropped and once you have a disseminated TB. Of course, Mutinta went to town and explained how samples should be collected. We need to go back to our facility. How are we collecting these samples? Because that will compromise the quality of the result. If it was saliva in these experts, then that may explain why it was negative. And also, if these people are very sick, you have admitted them, the type of sputum you get out of these will obviously be poor quality, and that may account for these results. But thank you for bringing it to our attention.
And just one thing, though. So if it's disseminated TB, definitely even the production of the sputum won't be that much. It's not like pulmonary TB for us to get a very good sample.
Yeah, so it also depends on where the city, the TB is sitting. But this scenario you've given us, Peter Singongo, I like it. I give you a diamond star because it tells us why we should really push in UNLAM into our facilities, because these cases would have been missed if we didn't have UNLAM. So well done. Chimwemwe is saying that the HIV viral load performance is not good, so he gives you a 0.
Yes, we have noticed.
He says it's not good. I like your honesty. Very straightforward. Sinjini, I see, Sinjini, David, I see you have 2 questions. Are you able to just unmute and just say them so that people can answer them?
Thank you, Dr. Sombo. My 2 questions were, number 1, how long should we wait to rebleed our clients that we're expecting viral load results for, considering that in most cases, the TAT is way more than 2 weeks? We've had instances where we've not received results despite follow-ups for more than 2 months for some clients. That's number 1. And then number 2, if we have a rejected sample, does the lab have a mechanism or a system to inform the facilities if those samples were rejected? Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I'll let the lab team take up 1, then 2. I have a comment on 1. Please take Mpanji. We have Mpanji.
Yeah, so let me start with the rejected sample. So I don't know which facility where you are coming from, but from UTH, we've got different. I can go ahead.
Yes.
We've got different facilities who refer testing for viral load samples. So usually what happens for us is that there are drivers that come on a daily basis to drop off samples as well as to collect the hard copy results. So what usually happens is that for those samples that we've actually rejected, we also give them a list of the samples with actual details explaining why those samples were rejected. So feedback goes back in that direction. But like I mentioned, I'm not sure how your referral system is from your facility, but ideally, the people who are doing samples for testing should send out a list or communicate the number of samples that have been rejected to the facility that is sending samples for viral load. Other than that, also, we've got emails. I believe most of our facilities have got emails and phones. So if you don't have a driver in place, you can use emails to communicate to the people who are actually collecting the samples from the actual facility so that they know that these samples were rejected. So all those things should be there. Then coming to the first question, it's a tricky one, but I think for what has worked for us, it's an issue of communication. I think for me, that is a main challenge that is actually there. So like usually at UTH, the way we work, I'm not saying that we're a perfect facility, but I can assure you that if Dr. Foloshi is seeing a patient, if the viral load is not there, she's not gonna continue that the viral load is not there. She's going to either call me or the people that I work with. So I would like to encourage people to have that rapport where if the result is not there, you should feel free to contact the people who are testing, because most of the time you discover that 80% of results are there, only that there's no in-between person to go and pull out the result and have that patient's results tested. So for us, Dr. Foloshi, Dr. Mwemba, Professor Mlenga, they will just call and say, I'm seeing this client, where are the results? You know what I mean? So there should be that rapport so that at least you're able to know where the issues are for each particular client. Because in the process, we end up, for instance, I had an experience where a patient was bled 3 times, and people are assuming that the results are not there. But then when I was called, I checked into the system. All the 3 results were there in our system. But the issue was that there was no communication. So I would like to encourage people to communicate with the lab people as well as the people who are coming from the data. Because sometimes as a lab, you might send hard copy results in a facility, but then for some reason, someone else collects the results, put them in a drawer, and then you're looking for results, but then in the process, you are thinking that the results are not there and you end up bleeding the patient. So that would be my comment. I'm not sure, I don't know if Mutinta would like to comment or something.
Okay. Yes, I wanted to comment on that. I think under my key points, I have said the first point that I said is that assuring quality is a holistic process. It's not dependent only on the lab. And that's why I come to the post-examination phase.
Yeah.
As Panji said, we don't know which facility, we're not sure which facility you're coming from, but all facilities have got a lab cadre, a data clerk, and nurses. Those ones are there on the ground. So since you are really not the people who are doing the testing is being done from UTH, even your lab person should be able to communicate with the courier who brings back, check and make sure that everything that was sent out to UTH, there is a route before the date on which you are supposed to see this patient. Those are things that should be done prior to the actual, so that even when you notice that, look, 2 weeks has passed, this is now 1 month, what's this, virology, ACOE, EID, why aren't you giving, you are able to collect at that point of 1 month. I think that was what you wanted to ask. At which point do you recollect? Because if you are doing your interventions and trying to find out what has happened, it will be very easy for you to tell, for us to tell, no, you're not, just recollect. And most of the time when we tell people to recollect, we also assure that that second sample is actually processed properly and is not lost within the system. So those are things, it's an issue of communication where we should constantly communicate.
And I'll tell you one thing, I used to have a lot of recollections, but now with DISA, you can even see in DISA if the sample was received. Yeah. If a patient comes, they don't have a viral load, you check in the system. If it's not flagging that it went, then you know that you have to recollect because it's not flagged that it has reached the lab. But I must say there's great improvement when it comes to viral load. But whenever I have a problem with viral load, I go back. One of the things we do as Ministry of Health and with our CDC partners, with USAID, is we go to granular level at a facility. Okay, and Mpanji brought out a lot of key issues, and I'm glad, Sinjani, you are the one who has asked this, because this is our core business as mentors, to go to the facility and see, why doesn't this file have a viral load? We've been to facilities where the lab, the patient has no viral load. They're in the facility. You go to the lab, that viral load came out 1 month ago, but it's not on the file. I don't know whether we should blame the lab or a data clerks. If you remember, Mutinta did a poll before she said, we encourage even data clerks to attend these sessions, because a bad data clerk can actually make a whole facility fail.
Yeah.
Right? So we went to this facility. This viral load was not on the file, but it was there. And you know what? It turned out that the lab person and the clinical officer had fought. So they were not talking to each other, okay? So the CEO was just ordering them to collect, and the lab guy was collecting them and not taking the results. You can imagine. And we are pumping in millions and millions of dollars in this program to go and find 2 people at the facility fighting to agree who will bring the results to whom. I think when you get granular, you may find that our lab system has terribly improved. Where we are failing, all of us, for me, 50% is my inability to push my data clerk. I want a result on this file all the time. And it's the lab's inability to say, we are churning out all these viral loads, you people are not utilizing.
The results of the samples that had been sent. So I think the onus is on the lab together with the clinical and the entire program to actually look at a lab transmission system that will be alive to both the needs of the HIV program and the TB program. And I know DISA can do that. And those are some of the areas that I would actually recommend that we move at the expansion of actually installing DISA in all the facilities for those provinces that are supported to have it, so that the result return is actually improved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mwinga. There's a 200% agreement for you, 100% from Panji and 100% from Mutinta. That point is extremely valid. DISA has changed the world for us here at UTH, and for sure, I think the rest of the country should move in that direction. We'll take a second. I know we have a few more questions, but just to discuss the poll questions, then we can take the rest.
Yeah. Okay. So for our second poll question, the correct answer was D. Let's see how we did on that one. Okay. Most of us.
So actually, they haven't voted again.
Oh, you want them to vote again?
Yeah, but I don't think we have time.
Yeah, we don't think we have time. Yeah. So the correct answer was A and D. You need to add the date and the time on the bottle. And these bottles are rather big. They're not as small as the blood bottles, so we can put these. Remember, time is very important. Time is very important.
What about phone number? Phone number goes on the form.
It goes on the form, yes, not on the bottle.
I almost said that, look, we have 100% because the answer is right there. But I'm just going to share the results.
Okay.
So we had 96%. So you need both the date and the time, okay? The answer is right there in red, actually. So for the third one,
okay. Is that the new?
Yes, this is the third one.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So the third one is talking about turnaround times. So turnaround times, they are not just lab business. It's all our business. At the end of the day, patients expect results from us. Patients should not be going to the lab to follow up their own results. No.
Okay, so for that PA, 7 days. Let's just move the box. Yeah. For Gene Expert and together with RIF, I think that is what makes it actually 48 hours. Or else for just Gene Expert, within 24 hours, you'd have it. But because of the RIF, it goes to 48 hours. Then the culture is 66 days. Unfortunately, TB is a very stubborn bacteria. We have tried as laboratorians to make the media very healthy, putting lots of eggs, but it doesn't want to eat and grow. Yeah, so the microscopy is 36 hours.
Just to mention that for culture, it may grow earlier, but remember you need to do drug sensitivity testing. So like the most stubborn of TB, the most bold will take up to 66 days. But by 4 weeks, you should start checking your result if you've actually grown something. I'm going to end the poll and share the voting pattern, which is making me worry. Can people see my screen? Because my screen has the answer, but I'm seeing people are still voting outside what is recommended. Oh, okay, that's nice.
That's the second one.
Okay. So we'll go to the fourth poll question. Okay. So for viral load, okay, if you talk about collection and transportation, what's the second poll? This is the fourth one.
Yeah, I mean, is it the second time they're voting?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, so which of the following is true? You collect it in 2 paper tubs and transport it at room temperature. There is no need for you to start putting it in a cooler. I also know this because I know when we collect, around 12 hours, I see the phlebotomist up the stairs with something that my paper tubs. So I know it's at room temperature.
It's at room temperature, yes. Yes. Then I just wanted to pass a comment on A and B, the trick questions that we threw in there, the curveballs we threw in. Please do not, and I repeat, do not freeze your viral load samples. They'll be lysed and they'll be rejected. So that minus 20 was a trick question. We wanted to see what's going to happen and wanted to let people. So please, the minus 20 for number A is not recommended at all. Just do not do that. Thank you.
And this one?
The recommended and expected average TAT for viral load, HIV viral load.
This is a bit of a trick question, isn't it? Because if I get mine in 6 weeks, I will write 6 weeks. Because you guys are underperforming. Yes. As someone says, viral load is not good.
It's 0. Yeah. No, we've taken note of that, but ideally it's supposed to be 2 weeks. And as the laboratory services, we are working towards this. We have seen, you see, I was making this presentation myself. I would have not put that slide on. I would have told them the same thing in a different way. But we wanted you to see that as laboratory, we do accept our shortcomings and we're working towards them. Next year, you can definitely ask me the same question and see whether we have improved.
In short, what the lab services is saying, this is the standard we need to hold them up to. This is very critical. Remember that we want over 70–80% of our patients to be in stable DSD models. Without stable lab systems, your DSD models will actually fall into pieces. So thank you for that. But out of curiosity, I will share the voting patterns. So you people are not good. Even with the answer, there are 97% of people actually said 3 weeks, but 3 and 2 weeks, that's quite near. So
no, actually, Patrick, they are giving us ideas. We're responding to customers, and we're customer-centric, so we shall go to 3 weeks and see maybe next year we improve.
Okay. So somebody is asking, is there a possibility to come up with an online platform for viral load results with just ART numbers that all facilities can access for recipients of care, and like waiting for printed results brought to the facility?
Okay, that's a good suggestion that we have. So I think we'll look into it because DISA is able to capture some of this information. So, and I mentioned that some of the results, you can actually get them on your devices, on your phones. So if you have a chance, you can pass through Lusaka, UTH, and you're from far-flung, you can actually come through and have our IT people put this on your phone so that when you go back to your facilities, you are able to get them. This is what we worked. I know Dr. Solosha wasn't supposed to mention this, but this is what has worked for me personally at the COVID center. Panji will run the samples here, but I have the results on my device. None of my doctors get hard copies. They just get a WhatsApp message
comment, because this is critical, and he says he appreciates your responses, and CDC is willing to support root cause analysis to find out exactly the weak link in the chain that resulted in the apparent lack of viral load results that are described. Extremely important. I do not think it is okay for us clinicians to stand up and just say, I don't have a viral load. Because sometimes, actually most of the time now, that viral load is somewhere. It is just hanging within the facility. We are not talking to each other. I know Mutinta said her clinicians have those results on their devices, but our weak point as clinicians is that we need to remember we are dealing with both the paper and the electronic. Yeah. I'm doing a round and my intern tells me, I saw the white cell count, it was 3,500. And that ends there. I go to the file, that 3,500 is not documented anywhere. So if you have the result on your device, whether it is a phone, whether it is a tablet, please take time to transfer that information onto the patient's file, because at the end of the day, that result belongs to the patient. There is another one where they were asking, what is the turnaround time for GeneXpert for gastric lavage?
For gastric lavage, yes. It's the same turnaround time because the process is basically the same.
Okay, so that is simple and straightforward. I'll allow Makuyu, if you can unmute yourself, to go ahead with your question. Makuyu is asking, in cases where transportation of viral load sample, no bike to transport at that time, would it be wise for clinicians to preparation into red top bottle and store in a fridge or freezer until such time the transport is available? Maku, it's a pity you have not unmuted. That is a fantastic question.
Okay. Yes, because you are now trying to make sure that the sample integrity does not change. So that's how you are going to separate it and put it. So if that is going to happen, and you know as a facility that for the next 1 week or so you won't have transport, please go ahead and do that. But that traceability to the primary sample should be there. We should be able to follow through where the primary sample came from, and together with the information that is on the form. Those are things that need to be documented. That means documentation. On the form, you're writing, this was collected on this day, separated and frozen. You write the whole thing down because that is not the standard procedure that we have put in place. We have our programs, we've tried to make sure that transport is there to bring the samples straight to a testing lab within 24 hours. So if there's this gap, we can do that, but let's not make that a norm. It's just a stopgap measure and try and see where within our system things are failing and we don't have the transport to bring the samples.
Thank you. That is actually very clear. And Makuyu, thank you for bringing it up because I know the pain of having people come from kilometers away. Yeah. We've collected their samples and the people at town are not picking up your calls. So in that case, you can even call 7040 and inform them we have this challenge. But as Mutinta has said, documentation is everything. Yeah. These lab people, they are perfectionists. I don't know. I'm not a lab person because I'm very clumsy. You need to have these nimble fingers and be patient. Dr. Bosco, do you have anything to say before we close? Dr. Bosco, is it okay if we close? I think we need to close now. It's 4 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I think we need to read.
I was unable to unmute.
Yes.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to Mutinta for this very good presentation.
Excellent. Thank you. She gets gold stars. She gets gold stars.
Yes.
And we have Mpanji. You see, the hub has just shared the little party hats. Can we be sending those when you have such a great presentation?
Thank you so much.
Mpanji is supported by, Mutinta is supported by Mpanji here in the lab. It's been very exciting. I actually asked them, I gave them a turnaround time of 12 hours before canceling this session because we had no one to present, but they've done such a great job. I actually feel sorry for the people who didn't attend this, thinking it's just for the lab. Next week, you are going to have a QI for the HIV systems. This just tells us that beyond the clinical, there's so much going on and we can learn so much. I have learned so much. So this has been exciting. David is saying bye, but he says great session to both Mutinta and Panji. Thank you all. Our network want to acknowledge Kalingalinga, Kanyama that may have joined a bit late, and Newanika General, and of course, Lusaka College of Nursing, and I saw you got a few claps, and we'll see you next week.